You have to stay true to your values because then your reputation is diminished. If you don't stay true to your value and what you started out to do, then at the end of the day, who are you?
Values are attached to that in some way.
Yeah.
And just write them down, because I mean, when you have them in there, it's like, oh, they're real.
See somebody that can do a photography, they can do the DJ and catering, and say, Denise, I can do all these for you in a quarterly basis. Sold. Welcome back to Multifamily of the Cuff. Super excited to start the episode number 7.
Yes.
Okay, so today we have a special guest. We have Denise. We have also Irene. She's the co-host of this event. Denise, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's exciting.
Super excited to having you here. Welcome, guys. Episode number 7 of Multifamily of the Cuff, and let's get started.
Let's get started.
Yeah.
It's March 1st. Let's go.
Denise, thank you for coming in, and thank you for accepting the invite. I know you have tons of information that needs to be shared. People are interested to know exactly what's going on with the multifamily, what the direction that we're going to, how to approach you, and all that. So let's start off. Tell the audience a little bit more about you.
Yeah, so, multifamily is always changing. I have worked for Lincoln Property Company for 32 years.
Oh my
way.
goodness.
So I am a vice president, but
Wow.
I started at the bottom. I started as a leasing person.
Yeah.
So I'm a firm believer in starting at the bottom. You're a firm believer of starting at the bottom.
Yes.
That's how you learn. That's how you grow, and
Yep.
that's how you figure out stuff. You got to figure stuff out.
Yeah.
That's what we're in the business to do.
Yeah, you need to crawl before you run.
Sure. Isn't that the truth? So
Yeah.
in 32 years, we probably need like 10 episodes. I need
Of course we
I need
do.
my own series, but no. I hopefully I can impart a little bit of wisdom.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And,
For sure.
So 32 years to be
32
exact. You've done every position that there is in the multifamily. You've been significantly loyal to this particular property management. It's very, very well known in the industry. It's a big property management, and you've been given the opportunity to grow into it. We learned a couple of podcasts before how even this new career as a property management is being taught right now in colleges.
Yes.
So it is actually a career that people can go to school for and learn from and then start off. So which is great.
Yes.
This is creating opportunities for people to grow. There's lots of opportunity to scale up, and it's financial start changing as you start from leasing all the way to BP, and then you can make a very good living as far as working in the industry.
100%.
Right.
You have to be dedicated and, just have an open mind because, as we all know, what you learn in school sometimes isn't always applied in real life.
Yeah.
So, get in and start working if that's your goal.
Thick skin. That's what
Thick skin. Oh, my God. Thick skin. Ride the wave. There's so
Yeah.
many waves in property management, But, yeah, thick skin because you're going to hear a lot of no's, There's going to be ups and downs. You can have nice owners. You can have mean owners. You're going to have everything in between. Good bosses, bad bosses.
You can have
I've seen it all.
unrealistic owners.
Totally.
With this crazy expectation of things that definitely ain't gonna happen.
Totally.
You bring in so much information and knowledge and experience to the table. I mean, I'm pretty sure that owner has to listen to what you have to say. You expect, at least you hope that they do.
Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't.
But when they're investors, that's what they do for a living, invest. And then they
Yes.
can do investment with commercial, but then all of a sudden they decided to go the multifamily route.
That's right.
And it's a completely different beast of its own in order for them to make sense
Yes.
to do an investment or the right investment.
Yeah.
So then they have to choose, because you guys are, providers of a service as well to the owners. They have to pick and choose between different management company that are, proposing, this right approach for their asset, right?
Yes.
So, they have to choose whichever property management is going to make, the more value or a return on investment when it comes to deciding to that point, okay?
That's right.
So, am I in the right track on that?
Totally, 100%. And at the end of the day, it comes down to, the right fit. How when you meet a new client, is it a right fit? Sometimes you've had to turn down clients. Sometimes we've had to turn down clients. Sometimes they've turned down us because we're just not the right fit. Maybe it's the culture. Maybe it's the people. People at the end of the day, they buy and they do business with people that they like at the end of the day and that they align their values with. So, at the end of the day, that is who our client is picking,
Right.
who they aligned with the best. At the end of, 3 or 4 pitches from the big dogs, the Great Stars of the world, the Lincolns of the world, the ZRSs of the world, all the big players, right?
Right.
At the end of the day, because we all do the same things, but at the end of the day, somebody shined a little brighter, somebody brought a little more knowledge, somebody, hit the nail on the head during that pitch that somebody wanted to hear. Yes, that's my hot button. That's what I wanted to hear. That we're giving the job to them.
No, and that's perfect. And Denise, this is why I love this. And even though I can send you questions, we're gonna reroute to different things based on what we're talking about.
Yeah, none of these are on my thing.
Right.
But I expect that with Fernando.
but this what you just said, value is important. So we're talking right now. We're talking to an audience. We have landscapers, roofers, and different service providers that want to get involved with the multifamily. Have no clue, how to get involved with the multifamily, and this is why this podcast is created. It's for them. Yes. Then we also have property management that are having a really hard time trying to bring vendors and they have no idea why they're not getting, the right partnership. Okay. So one of the things that, we are true believer is on the value. Yeah. And we defend and protect our values so much. And that so to the point that we're not a hypocrite when it comes to that. So if we're going to fire a $40,000 revenue a year client, we will do the same for a $1 million client. Because they are not meeting our values.
That's right.
And us as a service provider, we still have the right, not because we have a contract with you, it's $1 million, we're going to stick to something that we don't believe.
That's right.
So that's what set us apart. And that's why I teach, when I have coached other companies, I tell them, just be true to your value.
Yes.
Don't give even your value because of a contract.
100%.
Because you're a hypocrite with your team.
Yes.
And you're not protecting your value. And if you don't protect your value, that new contract, you might lose it because you're not being truthful with your value.
That's right.
And they appreciate that. We have told to the biggest corporation, we said, no, you're not compatible with our value.
Well, right, because you have to stay true to your values because then your reputation is diminished. If you don't stay true to your value and what you started out to do, then at the end of the day, who are you?
Well, then you're just gonna be a prisoner of other people.
That's
because
correct.
that's gonna change. One company might ask you today to do this, and you look over and say, well, okay, I'm just gonna do it this time. But then you're just gonna be a prisoner because you're gonna keep doing it because now this is more money, and now I'm just gonna do this because it's just more money. And then you're lost.
That's right. And you set the example for everybody who works under you, too.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah,
because if you bend the rules a little bit, then maybe they can bend the rules a little bit. And then next thing you know, there's rules bending all over the place. And then you got nothing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Right. So if for our audience right now that are listening, and you are, a new business owner, you're a new person that want to switch over and want to do business with a multifamily. In this case, to any business, I will suggest and advise anybody stick through your true values. And
write down your values.
And
write down your, because sometimes people don't know.
Right.
I mean, you go through life and you just don't know what your values are until you get to that point. Okay, I need to see what I'm through to, like what's the thing that make me feel fulfill and be a part of the society. I mean, because values are attached to that in some way. Yeah. And just write them down because I mean, when you have them in there, it's like, oh, they're real. Now I have to respect them.
When you write them down, oftentimes that becomes your mission statement.
Yes.
Correct.
And, if ever you lose your way, you should go back to your mission statement and
Yeah.
say, what, you know,
Yeah.
how did I get here? What, you know, people do lose their way in business because there's greed, there's money, there's, you know, things. People will throw things out at you. But if you stay true to those values and you find your way home, you know, every now and again, then, you know, you'll always be a success because that's what you set out to do. That's what you believe in and you're passionate about.
Correct.
So
And that cannot be fake.
it cannot be fake.
No.
So so now getting into information that our listener are, you know, eager to you know, expecting, and I have as now some question for you. Out of the services that are being provided to the multifamily, which one do you think it is the most difficult one to deal with?
Yeah, so I would say that anything that you cannot put a definitive price on is what is really hard to deal with as a property manager or somebody in property management. I'll give you guys an example, you know, like plumbing or a fire alarm system, a big system that something's wrong and you can't put a price tag on fixing it. Isn't you know, the whole building is leaking and something's going wrong, and you know, somebody says, well, I can't give you a price. We have to go looking, you know. What do you mean you have to go looking? I have to tell my owner how much is it going to cost, right? So those things can be difficult and tricky to navigate.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So I can actually elaborate a little bit more. I come from the fire protection industry.
Oh,
and
yeah, my hot button, fire alarms.
Yes. So in these garden style apartments that all the wires are on the ground, there was some problem with one of them that broke. And I used to ask questions, what have you guys done in the last week or so that could have damaged something? Yeah. Oh yeah, we just did a sidewalk. Okay, let's just go back there. Well, they broke an underground pipe and they had to redo the sidewalk again. But, you know, this happened after days and days of troubleshooting. The bill was, you know, outrageous. You know, so how do you tell your owner, well, you know, they were kind of guesstimating where that come from, you know, $20,000 later, you know, then, you know, what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
That's not in the budget. Not a
Yeah, and you know, for new people and you know things like that. I mean, oftentimes what we will do is we will put an initial like do not exceed price tag on it and say, okay, you go find the problem, but once you hit $5,000, you stop and you tell me what you found before you go any further.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
this is how much money you have right now, $5,000. And then you better be able to tell me what happened after that.
Right.
you know?
Exactly.
So, and then I need a real price. You know, you can't just go exploring for days and days and days. So a lot of people get, you know, really roped into that trap, and you have to manage the vendor. You can't just let them go off on their own and say, you know, oh, we've been working on this for days on end. Well, do you have a proposal? Do you have a signed contract? Do you have anything? No, but you owe me the money. Well, do I? I mean, who told you to do that? So on both ends, you have to be really careful. On the vendor end, protect yourself, get everything in writing. On the property management end,
Yeah,
in with
writing
the vendor.
communication it's key.
Okay.
Writing
And
communication.
Irene, so if we going back through all the episodes, just keep in mind for our audience to understand that communication has been the common factor in everything in every interview.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to this and you are a service provider, just make sure you cover, you know, your back, you know, and communicate. Make sure that you are in the daily. If you are doing a project like that for a plumber, you know, that's listening and want to get into, and there's a leak somewhere, you know, when you see a water damage in the first floor, you know, that leak can be coming from the third floor. So you need to trace that back, you know, and then if you're not into the multifamily, then if you're interviewing a plumber and they say that they haven't worked with other apartments before and they only do residential, you need to back off from that.
yeah.
Okay, but how can a new plumber get involved with it, you know, and have the opportunity to do that, you know? But they need to understand the infrastructure of a national building, and they have to be able to see through the walls, so they can say, you know, I know exactly where it comes from, right? That comes with experience, right?
Yeah.
But how can a property afford to teach a new company?
Well, I'll tell you, it's the same thing. You got to start at the bottom, right?
Right.
So if you're that new plumber and you want the big jobs, you got to start with the little ones because I need to trust you a little bit.
Yeah.
So if I call you for a leaky sink, come and fix it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, it's a $200 job, but guess what? The $200,000 job might be around the corner if you can prove yourself a little bit.
Yes.
Especially if you're new. If you're new, you have to prove yourself.
Yes.
You know that better than anybody.
Yes.
Fernando knows that probably better than anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
You have to pay your dues.
I mean, you know, and it's just the way that it is because we look for experience. You know, you're not going to go to the first brain surgeon if you need brain surgery.
Yeah.
Somebody straight out of medical school.
Right.
Yeah.
No.
Correct.
That's right. And the writing communication is so even for the silliest thing you might
Silliest
think
thing.
like no, the maintenance supervisor told me this. Where is it? I mean, because sometimes that happen. Like we complete the job and everything is done, and you send the invoice. Like, who requested this? Oh, I just got a phone call from so and so. Yeah, but it's not in writing, so I'm not gonna pay you for a job
right.
that we didn't request. And it's so important. The silliest thing is that you might. It's important. Yes.
I'll tell you when that really comes in handy, and especially, you know, we've seen this year more than anything. It's been the most volatile year in property management history with sales of properties, buying and selling and buying and selling and buying and selling. You might have been the last vendor in that property right before they sold, and you have no idea. But you still have a bill sitting there. So who is paying that bill? Unless you have that correspondence in writing, then you don't really have a leg to stand on if that ownership changes and you're like, hey, I've got a bill out here.
Right.
Well, where is it?
Yeah,
Who'd you
that
talk
happens
to? Do you
a
have
lot.
a signature? So, you know,
So
protect yourself.
Denise, what would you recommend to these companies that are getting new into this and they just replace a whole roof in a building, and then right there after they finish they go sold? You know, they still prepping the invoice. They took 2 weeks before, you know, they send it over, and they just found out that the company has been sold.
Yeah.
So what would you recommend in that cases? I mean, let's guide them.
Well, number one, get a retainer. You know, if you're doing a big job like that, part of the money has to be up front.
Right.
You know, bottom line, and progress bill along the way. I never recommend. You know, I oftentimes say this when somebody has run up a huge bill and they're coming to collect it. I'm like, how did they get here? How did they run up? At what point did the vendor say, I'm not going to do business with you anymore because you're not paying your bills, right? So at some point you got to pull the plug. You're like, oh, that's Lincoln Property Company. They're good for it, right? Well, that's, you know, it's not my money. It's not my checkbook. If the property changes, I don't have any way to pay you. So you need to have it in writing. I would say progress billing is a really good way to go, you know, especially on a big job. As you complete a building, you send the bill. Don't send just a whole roofing job bill at one time, $2 million. Bill it along the way.
Right. Perfect.
Yeah.
So good to know. If you're listening and you taking notes right now and you are getting new into this, make sure that you follow the steps. I mean, this is coming from somebody that have lots of experience and manage hundreds of properties. So it is important to keep track of the invoicing and then be on point with your invoicing. You know, don't sit on it.
Yeah.
I see a lot of we had call from property managers that said, listen, I need you guys because I'm using so and so. And they haven't invoiced me for 4 weeks, or they send an invoice from 2021. I said, wait, I mean, you're going to mess up my financial, in February because you're, in March because you're sending me something that you did in November.
100%.
Well, I was busy. Well, I'm sorry, but I mean, I already closed those books.
That's right.
I mean, you're still owe the money, but you're definitely going to do business with them anymore.
Never.
Right.
And it's going to be really hard on you to answer that question.
Yeah.
Right.
Because as the property manager, you've been doing business with this person. Where are the bills? Same, it goes both ways.
Yes.
You know what I mean? At some point, if you're not getting paid, pull the plug. And at some point, if you're not getting the invoices, pull the plug. They might be your favorite vendor. They might be your best friend. They might be your mom.
Right.
You got to pull the plug.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. Yeah.
Business is business at the end of the day.
Correct.
That's
So Denise, in your case, because let's just talk about also what fails in the in the property management side that can cause those issues as well. Because we run into some issues like that fails through if an invoice is not being paid. So what happens in the property side that makes that happen? That for some invoices not get paid on time.
A change in the property manager, a new property manager. You know, there's a lot of technology out there with bill boxes and things like that. You know, I've heard managers just say, well, I didn't get the bill. Well, do you know you're doing business with this person? You know what I mean? You didn't get the bill for your mortgage, but you know you have to pay it, right? It's the same.
Okay.
You know, and a lot of times if you leave the bills to go to some bill box in the sky and you're not checking that, or you've left it to technology and you're not, you know, managing the store, you know, things can get lost. So it's a checks and balances. You have to know who you're doing business with. You have to know your, you know, book of business, and you have to manage it as a business.
Right. Okay. So understanding because it is known in the multifamily, and the reason why some of the service providers don't do business with the multifamily is because, in general, as a rule of thumb, there is a delay of payment. It's just 30 days net for us, but we get paid at 45, 60, 90, 120. You know, they move the money around. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that not many company can sustain, you know, overhead, you know, with multifamily. When they do commercial and they do residential, they get paid on the spot.
Yes.
It's upon delivery.
Yes.
So somebody switching over to multifamily, they need to manage their finances differently. So because they're providing services, they have to pay payroll, but they're not getting paid until, you know, 45 days out, which is very common. And then 60 days out is still common, believe it or not. So it is hard for them. What would you recommend somebody? I mean, aside from they have to have a hell of an accounting, but to be patient, I mean, that will be something that you...
Well, you know, be patient to a point. You know, it's still a business at the end of the day. But I will say this. Understand who you're doing business with. If you're on a 60-day term, understand why you're on a 60-day term. Because, you know, why? Do I have to get your invoices, and then do I have to do a draw? And does the bank have to say yes? And then does the asset manager have to say yes? And does somebody else have to say yes before I can actually write you the check, right? Sometimes that's a real process in property management. You know, a lot of times it has to go through the lender that has the mortgage on the property. So that happens a lot, and that can cause the delay. And it's really not the property manager or the property management company or even the owner of the building. Sometimes it's the lender of the actual bank. You know what I'm saying? They want to make sure the mortgage is paid first, then they start paying the vendors, and it goes down, you know, from there. So there's sometimes a draw process involved that can be a little bit of a delay.
Let me ask you, Denise, and does that changes based on the amount? So, because I know that there is an amount of money that the property manager and main supervisor are allowed to approve without getting any regional involved. Then it goes to another step, and then the regional is allowed to a certain point. Then it goes to the VP and so forth and so on. So, is that something that really happened truly?
Yes.
Is it normal? Is it normal business practice?
It is a normal business practice. I mean, it really all comes down to the owner of the building and their financing terms. Because, you know, if an owner owns a building outright and it's his money, 9 times out of 10, you're going to get the check. If it's a Lincoln property company that we own, we built it, we manage it, we're in charge of the checkbook, you know, we pay the mortgage payments, we don't have a lender per se on the property, you're going to get your check probably in 15 days. But, you know, if there's a lender involved or something like that, and they want to approve everything that's over $1,000 or whatever, that's going to cause a delay. So it's really very property specific. But that's what I'm saying. As a vendor, you have the right to ask those questions. You know, are my payment terms 30 days? Am I really going to get paid in 30 days? If I'm getting paid in 60 days, why? Ask them why, so you can understand.
Right. Yeah.
If it's a draw process, okay, you have a comfort level. I'm going to get paid, but I see why it's taking so long.
So perfect. See, that's something that that's very important for anybody jumping into the multifamily to understand, because if they're used to do residential and they get paid, you know, they do a roof, they get paid right there and there, you know, and then they do a service and they get paid right on the spot the same day, and they want to switch over, and then now they have to wait 60 days. They will fail. All these expenses going out and no money coming in. So many companies cannot sustain that delay.
Correct.
You know, this is something important for everybody to understand, that getting into the multifamily, they have to experience some of the pain, some of the initial pain, and that can take, you know, like you and I know, it's about 5 months to get the ball rolling.
Yeah.
So it is important for them to understand that. So thank you for explaining that. And so another question. So in your opinion, what are the struggles that are affecting the industry right now, and how do you think that it can be solved?
Yeah, that's a really easy one right now because it's people, it's staffing galore. In 32 years, I have never seen the staffing, situations that we're in right now, especially in the state of Florida, because everybody's flocking here. So the jobs are very abundant. So, we have to get in the game as people that employ other people. We have to pay them more. We have to be more flexible with people's lives, and we have to make a good work environment so that people want to work with us, right? So that's the biggest challenge right now is people and loyal people that want to stay and learn and grow and have some longevity with your company. Otherwise, you've got a lot of skipping around going on right now.
Right. And, we try not to be biased in any way, shape, or form in for the podcast and the company we represent. But talking to from our experience, we have that's something that we have struggled also. So to be competitive, and this is an implementation that everyone is doing, is that you have to increase the prices of your services in order to pay more.
100%.
So you can bring better people.
Supply and demand.
Supply and demand. So when we did that, immediately, we found some clients that said, no, we cannot sustain that increase. Okay. So when we tell and we coach other companies, that you don't have to be afraid because it will happen. You're going to lose some clients. So, but the clients that you're losing might come back to you because now if they're choosing another company that's cheaper, that's less expensive, they're not paying enough to their people. They're suffering to keep those people.
Correct.
So then they're not going to be providing the services to the property on the right time because they don't have enough people.
Yeah.
So guess what? They have to come back to you.
They got to come back to you. It goes back to the quality that you're providing at the end of the day. I could be the cheapest person on the block, but, if my people aren't there and they don't show up to work and they're not, turning your apartments, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Right. So
price doesn't do anything in there. Like if the people don't show up, it's just like, okay.
Yeah.
We asked a question before, and now in the position that you are right now, maybe you can elaborate this a little bit more on what's the number that's important. And I know I'm tricking you right now with this, but in the numbers of a property, you have occupancy, and then you have your NOI. So when looking at a property and you're looking at the overall numbers, what's important? What's really important? Because when I'm coaching somebody, I have to teach them about numbers. And I asked the question, what do you think, or who do you think is going to be most important? Is it going to be the owner of an asset or the resident? So we all know the resident is the most important because that's where everything starts. Without them, there is no multifamily. Am I right?
We don't have a job.
You don't have a job,
No.
right? So that's where everything starts from that person that's going to actually pay 100%. The rent. So if a service provider doesn't understand how the money flows from the renter all the way to the owner's pocket, and you don't know how to plug yourself into that, then you're losing. So, but now we need to teach them what's important. Is it the NOI at the end of the year, or is it the occupancy rate? What do you think, and how can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, I mean, those two things go hand in hand. Okay. Normally when your occupancy is high, your NOI is high. However, if your expenses are completely out of whack all year long and you're not managing the expenses at the end of the day, then you're not going to have any NOI. Right. So you could have, 100% occupancy, but you've been spending your money unwisely, then you are not going to have any NOI. So, all of those things go hand in hand.
Right. So it's important. Most numbers are important. And then also, so I noticed that as there have been property managers that are placed into this position without knowing exactly how to see numbers.
Yes.
And this is a mistake that some of them make. They just get promoted because of the lack of staffing that we have right now. And you put these people. So this company provide this bid, and they're like, oh, that's too high. Boom. But they don't see what they're getting for these 12% higher than what they're using.
That's correct.
But if this company is taking 5 days to turn a unit versus 2 days,
that's right.
This is more expensive.
100%, because you've lost all that rent money. You don't have your apartment back on the market to be ready to go for the resident who makes us all our money can move into the apartment. So yes, at the end of the day, time costs, are not quantitative. You can't quantify what it costs you in time sometimes.
Yes.
But if you've been around the block and you've got some experience, you know that time is money. So that is very, very important to quantify all those things. And if you're new in the business, reach out to somebody who, there's plenty of us that are willing to give advice and impart wisdom, and join your, apartment associations and all of that, and surround yourself by people who know. And if you found yourself in a position where, oh my God, I just got promoted, I don't know anything about these financials, find out. Ask some people.
Ask questions. Ask the right question.
Yep.
Because I noticed, and Irene, you know that we've seen that we have raised our pricing. We've seen that people are not seeing the actual true value to when it comes to speed. And this industry is all about the speed. Is to create inventory. Right now, it is the craziest year that the supply and demand are completely off track. They're building left and right, and the occupancy is like people don't have units. They just don't have units.
That's
They don't even have places to go to. So if you're turning a unit that takes 5 days, 7 days, and I still blows my mind how people can do that in-house. I don't know why.
Yeah.
You need to subcontract that out because you don't have enough staff to begin with, and you want to, use them.
If you're still doing that in-house, let me just say, stop doing that.
Yes.
It's like, but anyway, they think they're not looking at time. They don't look at the price of time.
Correct.
And then we sat here and we broke it down into a minute. How much a minute costs by one
and I mean, it's good. I mean, it's not good. But if they're doing it right now, that, like in the low season, like we're not as busy as we're going to be, in 2 months. So they might say right now, yeah, you're too expensive, right? Your company is too expensive to do this. And they have this just one person doing the low season. And then when the big season comes in, it's going to be like, am I expensive or am I going to solve your problem?
Right. That's right.
Yeah. So for property management, let's just teach them, there's going to be new property managers, listening to this. Just, if you don't know financial, get the financial knowledge that you need. You need it.
Yeah.
In order for you to be successful in the property management, you need to have the knowledge. Those are
and numbers are
right. And so these are
important.
multi-million-dollar assets. They need to be taken care of. This is a business, like you say. One of them in Tampa that just got sold $300 and something thousand a door.
Yes.
I mean, they need a qualified property management.
That's
to
right.
Be there. So
that's why we call our business managers business managers. I mean, at the end of the day, they are managing multi-million-dollar assets for people. It's not a joke. There's a lot of money on the line.
Yes.
So, quality and, time costs and all of those things are very, very important to look at.
Okay. So, and then for the vendors listening to this, just make sure that you have the manpower to provide services to the multifamily. It is important. You're going to require that. This is a fast-paced business. This is not for them to be waiting. So it is not being, if you're doing residential and then you do multifamily, it's not the same.
Yeah.
It's different.
Yeah.
It's very different. So there's a fun question here that I have. What is the service that's provided to the properties that you guys enjoy the most?
Oh, my goodness. Anything that can bring a party. Anything that I would say is like a one-stop shop. That's easy. You know what I mean? Like, in the last couple of years, like food trucks have come, into play. Like, that's just an easy one-stop shop. It's fun for everybody. It's fun for us, fun for the residents, whatever. Anybody that can provide a one-stop shop is the best thing that we can be dealing with. If you're a caterer and you can do the decorations and you can provide me with 2 menus to choose from and it's easy for me and I can make a decision and plan my party, I'm ready to go. Okay. Anybody that provides the one-stop shop, like you guys,
Perfect. So if you're listening and you wanna, there is a lot of residence event that happens. So I see somebody that can do a photography, they can do the DJ and catering, and say Denise, I can do all these for you in a quarterly basis. Sold.
Sold. My time's important.
Yes.
Again, time costs, okay? Like, sold. I'm ready to sign you up. If you can do all those things,
You don't need to be hiring a DJ on the side and a photographer on the side and a caterer on the side.
Many people don't know that you actually need those type of services.
Oh my gosh,
I
you
mean,
do.
there are a lot of people out there, like they do residential and they offer this catering for small parties, like in a residential level, like a private event. And they don't know that this is a big service. Yeah, big opportunity for them to go to the multifamily and say, hey, these are the services that and it's constant, like, because they do it like in a quarterly basis, maybe monthly, because I have seen many buildings that on monthly basis they are doing, like wine, just events.
Wine testing. So depending on the demographic, depending on the, if it is a garden style, they might do a bouncing house for kids.
Absolutely.
Or an ice cream truck.
Yoga teachers.
But if you are
training people,
if you're in the downtown area and you see that your demographic is on the professional level, young professionals, you're gonna do the yoga class.
Sure.
You're gonna do so there's so many opportunities for people to provide services to the multifamily that have no idea that they could.
Have no idea. For instance, we just had our big leadership conference in Fort Lauderdale, and we had a whole company provide all like these beach Olympics. Who would think that you need a beach Olympics vendor, right? This person planned beach Olympics, for 1,000 and some people.
Wow.
Like, it was crazy town, right? But this guy had it all laid out. All the games were laid out, everything. It was very organized. You don't think, I need that vendor, but you do.
Yep.
That's perfect.
That's amazing.
But I will say this about that one section, though. The vendor has to be willing to get that insurance. And that is the crux of being a small DJ or whatever. But again, growing pains. If you want to get bigger, you got to go bigger. You got to get more insurance. You got to get more coverage.
Yeah, so, if you need some advice on that, episode 4, we talk about all the little details, like some admin details that people need to know in order to get into the industry, because it's not the same as like as private.
Right. Correct. So there is the compliance third parties that you need to sign up for. You need to make sure that you meet the requirement on a COI. The sample of the COI. There's many. That's where the detail come from. We already spoke about that in episode 4. Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up, because that's important.
Yes.
Not anybody can go from $500,000 liability insurance to $5 million liability insurance, because they don't know if they're going to continue business or why not. So, but just keep that in mind, that it comes from somebody with tons of years of experience that is recommending to make sure that you do qualify with the right.
Well, otherwise you're not gonna get paid.
Otherwise you won't get paid.
Yeah. And there's other ways too. You can roll up under a vendor that does do that kind of stuff if you want to just see how it goes. If you're a DJ, but that whoever Puffin stuff already offers all these services.
Just tag along and
start with Puffin stuff. They'll put you on their payroll and see how it goes. Is it going to be worth it for me to branch out on my own? Maybe
And that's what we've done. We've done with the window cleaning. We've done with the pressure washing. Small companies, that is Fernando's pressure washing, and they don't meet the requirements. It goes under our umbrella. They provide the services. We do the invoicing and all that, just to make sure that they can have a taste on that. And then gladly we're happy that we've seen small companies to grow into the multifamily. One of the things that Irene and I believe is to give to others, and we took our non-compete away from our staff. So this is something major, because we are so confident with what we provide, that our vision as a company is to provide opportunities to minorities to believe that they can do better. So if we left that non-compete in place, that will make us hypocrite, because we're limiting our people to pursue their dream. And their dream can be to create another company like ours. So we don't limit anybody.
I love that.
That is being truthful with our vision. So we took that away. People think we were crazy, but what if they steal a client? No, then if someone were to steal a client, I have bigger problems than that, So then they sit here and we go over everything, because we want to teach them. So what happened with this podcast? We are being truthful, and people say, aren't you afraid that somebody is going to do, a better business than you? No, I'm not. I'm just will be happy to see somebody succeed into this industry, and we
Right.
love
I
that.
want someone to do better than me
Me
because
too.
I will grow from that.
Yes.
It's not about
Yes.
competition. It's about servicing.
Yes.
And the best
Always
way we
hire
can-
people
yeah.
that know more than you, are smarter than
Yes.
you, can do better than you. You know why?
That's
So,
the-
so you can go on vacation from time to time. So you can have a life,
Yeah.
work-life balance. But also, too, you're creating that environment where people never want to leave. If they do, great. Empower them. There's enough business to go around.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And maybe someday you're going to work for them, or, you're going to learn something you don't know from them.
Yes.
So, yeah, there's plenty of business to go around.
Totally right.
And that is something that we're super proud of, to empower others. That is our vision. And then when we said, let's take it a little farther out, and then let's just create a podcast that we don't monetize from. This is volunteering ourselves, our
Yeah.
time. We set a time this day today to just teach others how to be successful in the multifamily, bringing elites in the industry like such as yourself. So this is super cool.
Yep.
And then to wrap this up, and then I know that people are anxious to know, it is a sales question, and how do you like to be approached when a service provider is trying to get business from you?
Here's the thing. I don't think you can limit the way that you're trying to contact people. And I did hear Irene say in Dustin's podcast not to call her, okay? If she said that out loud, then don't call her, okay? That's annoying if you already know that. But, if you're a vendor and you're trying to get business, try all the ways. Try all the ways. My preferred way, if you happen to know my phone number, send me a text. That's the fastest way, right? If you don't know my phone number, email
Get it from
me.
somebody.
Get it from somebody. Yeah. Hey, when you're a salesperson, there's a certain amount of grit that gets you a job. Find out. My phone number is really easy to find. Just find it. You know what I mean? Like, if you really want to get in touch with somebody, you can. Don't be annoying about it, but just be like, hey, I found your number, whatever. So everybody has a preferred way they want to be, put in touch with somebody. Text is my preferred method,
Okay.
but not everybody has my phone number. So shoot me an email. If you don't know my email, then, invite me to something. Just find somebody that knows me and say, hey, I want to invite, Denise to this networking event or whatever. Do you know how I can get in touch with her? Whatever the way. Don't stop trying is what I can say.
Okay.
I'll give you guys an example because it's funny because I tend not to answer my phone if I don't know who it is. But the other day I took a gamble. It was an 813 number. I'm like, oh, maybe it's somebody, OG 813. Not everybody's 813. So I was like, oh, this must be somebody. So you know who it was? It was Zach from Blue Sky. I ended up talking to him for 45 minutes that day.
No way. Okay.
So lucky day for Zach at Blue Sky, right? Like, and since that time we've seen him a lot, but, and now, we just get certain, like, he knows text message is my preferred way. So every now and again, though, he'll just send me some weird text message like, hey, Denise, 24/7, 365. That's all it says, 24/7. But you know what? It makes me think, oh yeah, I gotta call Blue Sky. You know what I mean? So little things like that. But everybody has their preferred way. I would say there's not one good way. There's old people and young people, and personal is the best. If you can't do personal, then reach out any way you can.
Yep.
Perfect.
And keep trying.
Yes.
So we have our audience. We have been reached out from Texas, California, that are sending us text messages how great this is. It is pretty common across the board in the multifamily in the way it works. But the difference is the different services. Somebody, a north might need some snow removal. We don't do that here.
Right.
We don't do that in
Right.
Florida. Some people
Here we need the alligator removal or something like that.
right. So, different vendors. But at the end of the day, the core of the whole multifamily is pretty much the same. And I noticed it at NAA. At NAA, I had the opportunity to really meet everybody from all different, and they all very in common with everything, the problems and everything, and then dealing with, the residents across the board is pretty solid, pretty accurate. So this podcast that is being listened nationwide, so it is cool that the information is valuable for them anywhere they're at. So it's pretty cool to see that.
I think this is really cool.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's just to bring the gap, to close that gap. So if they're new, if they are actually current service providers, now they can learn on how to switch. And if they're not taking notes or and changing a few things, they're losing. Because I mean, you are being as raw as you can be.
Yeah.
This is the real thing. This is coming from somebody that have dealt with many vendors along your way in your career. So and then so if you want to give an advice to somebody that's listening, what will that be?
I would say, be tenacious, keep your nose to the grindstone, figure out what your goal is, what you want to accomplish, and, make a plan to go after that goal every single day. Do something that's moving you towards your goal. Yep. That would be my advice.
Awesome. And that advice will be for anybody.
Yes.
That will be
Not only
everybody.
multifamily.
Yeah.
Everybody needs to listen to that.
Yeah. So, Denise, thank you again. Thank you for being here, being part of it, accepting the invitation. I'm sure that you're going to listen. We have tons of things to talk about. So this is not going to be just the first podcast. We'll bring you over again because I know that.
32 years of experience. Yeah, you need to be here.
Thanks for having me, you guys. I mean, I'm way old school, so this is what I do now, impart wisdom.
We have to share what we learn,
We have
right?
to share, absolutely. No, it's great.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. If you listen to this, I hope that you enjoy this episode. It's been great with Denise, Irene, and myself. And again, if you're listening in iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube, please leave us a review. Irene is going to make sure that you leave emails if you have any questions. And thank you again for tuning in.
Thank you, guys. See you next episode.